This is Ryan and Michelle, and welcome to the Celebrate MarriageCast, where we hope to restore and reclaim godly marriages through honest and real conversations.
Welcome to our show, episode 119, and happy almost New Year.
Almost the new year.
Incredible.
Michelle, 2025 has been so good.
Ryan, I appreciated what you wrote in our Christmas card that so far you have not had. It's been the year of nothing broken legs.
No ER visits.
No ER visits so far. So good.
Crushing it.
I mean, we have a couple days left.
Yeah.
2 days.
2 days. I'm hoping I can make it.
We have a fun show for you guys. It has been a great year. Did you have anything else you wanted to add about our year?
No, it's been such a great year. We've had such tremendous guests, and I think topics have been just amazing. And I feel like we've heard so many just great stories about just impact.
Yeah.
And it's been really, really amazing to be in this a few years now.
Yeah.
And just what God is doing.
This is our third New Year's show.
Yeah.
Our third best of. It was fun the other day. I just heard from someone and they said, yeah, I listen every week. And I said, you do? I didn't know that.
Yeah.
It was so cool.
Yeah.
But the impact that it's making, because of course it's hard for us to know who all is listening. We see the numbers, but then to hear, the actual people in the lives is really cool. So we have a great show for you today. We are actually just having this be totally in the hands of our producer and video editor. So they are putting together the best of 2025. Now, we think all of the shows were the best, but they're picking out select moments. So if you've watched all the shows, that's fine. I mean, watch again. We watch when these come out, we're here for the recording. We watch again anyways. So watch it again, pick up something new, but we are selecting some of our favorite moments of 2025. We hope you enjoy that. Going back to the beginning and just making sure we're all on the same page here. Yeah. And you guys, this does not mean perfection. So after all, two broken people are coming together and uniting into one. And we are certainly not perfect people. We try to be real and transparent here on the Celebrate MarriageCast. And we do have fights, we have disagreements, and we have tough things happen that we work through. And we're constantly working on our marriage. Ryan, sometimes right here on the podcast, we're working on our marriage.
Yeah.
And so it doesn't mean perfection.
Yeah, that's so good. I think that's a great point, Michelle, to distinguish that godly marriage isn't perfection. It's two imperfect people coming together, uniting as one, and it's really about seeking the one that is perfect. And that's, Michelle, you said this spot on. Like, this is a continual process. This isn't something that like you just do one day and then it's like, oh, yep, marriage is going to be perfect.
Yeah.
Like, it's continually every single day seeking that out. We've shared and Michelle, you've said this, like we've been open and honest about different things that have happened in our lives and different struggles or different obstacles that have happened in our lives. Mm-hmm. That we've been radically changed.
Yeah, fresh content every week thanks to life, right? Everybody has something going on. It's just how you go through it, right?
Right. Yeah.
And who you turn to.
Right. I mean, we've shared just even a few weeks ago when Tony Bohr was here, counselor, friend of the show, and we talked about that story of meeting. Like, we came together as two like broken people.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we'd each been through some really tough seasons.
Right.
Leading up to that.
Right. Mm-hmm. And we united as one, as Genesis says, the two are united into one. And that's really been to me, like really what the backbone of our marriage has been is a growing faith.
Yeah, we need him. He makes us whole. We can't do it on our own. So I think it's also surrender, like surrendering to God and knowing that he is the one that can bring restoration to us individually and then make the marriage work.
So I'm always trying to think, being a girl dad is so helpful for me because I can always think, what do I want Selah to look for in a husband someday? That's how I'm always trying to frame how I live and how I treat Jaden and Selah in light of that. So I want Selah to date a man who will someday will treat her like a godly man would, and when they're married someday will prioritize her.
Yeah.
Whatever situation, just to make sure that I am intentionally putting Jaden first. Because I think there's the urgent, but then there's also the priority and the main things that are a little quieter. And the urgent is loud, but the priorities are often quieter in the background.
If you're getting married, get some premarital counseling. Most churches will do that as part of, if you're getting married in their church, they'll do that because it's so important. And it's just a good way to get started on stuff, is you want to get started on the right foot and do the right things. This is the time of year where we talk about, I will get calls in my office and they'll be like, Tony, do you do premarital counseling? And I'm like, yep, okay. It's usually this many sessions and this is how much it costs. And then they go, oh, I don't know if I can afford that. And I'm like, oh man. And because what happens is they'll spend thousands on a dress. They'll spend thousands on a venue, spend thousands on food and catering and DJ. And then it's like, can you spend a couple hundred on getting your marriage started on the right foot? And so there's a piece of like, obviously I'm a counselor. I think that's really important, is you're planning a lot about having the day go really well. What we're going to be talking about today is planning your marriage to go really well, which is way longer than that day. Is, hey, let's cover these things and get started on the right foot and do some of those things. So yes, it's expensive. It's probably the least expensive thing of all the wedding stuff that you're going to do. And hopefully will have the biggest bang for your buck and last the longest. So that would be my first thing before we even talk about just the other stuff, is just to kind of pay attention when you're talking to your pastor and you're doing the premarital counseling, and take the time and do that. And if your church doesn't do that, go find somebody that does do premarital counseling.
Why, Tony? And I don't want to jump ahead as to what we're talking about, but why is it so important?
You're going to start a lot of patterns, right? How your marriage works, how it operates. Let's be proactive and start these patterns. Some of these things we'll talk about today. I'll ask you guys, hey, how do you guys do this? How do you do that? Like, oh yeah, but you know that now after spending time living together, having some arguments, solving some fights. You guys have figured that stuff out. It's so beneficial to do that on the front end. Let's be preventative. Let's talk about some of these things before we're fighting and before we're arguing. And so it's just, you're going to get in a habit. You're going to get in a pattern of how your marriage runs and operates. I just want you to have a little more control over that and set it yourselves instead of just kind of letting it happen.
Ryan, we took a class through Celebrate.
Yeah.
It was a one-on-one with a counselor. Do you remember that? We filled out a book.
Yeah.
And I just remember there being a lot of questions. Actually, we should have brought the books for today. It would have been really fun to look at and compare.
Go back and look, yeah.
I just remember we had to ask, we had to answer a ton of questions. What do you think about this? How would you, and I don't even know what they were about, just things that maybe could potentially cause conflict.
Right. Mm-hmm. I think we used, I think we used a book that Les Parrott had put out.
It was called Before You Say I Do.
Yeah.
Just a thin little workbook. But and I feel like it was really helpful because out of those sessions, we would drive away and it would open up dialogue where, let's talk about that. What do you think about that? Are you a spender? Are you a saver? I mean, it's possible people have not had those conversations yet, right?
Likely.
So that.
I'm going to come back to if we can get in a pattern of being more available and ready, like on a weekly basis, that keeps someone from having those 3 months, 4 months. Because typically if we can go 3 months, we can go 4 months. Or if we can go 4 months, we can go 5 months. And then you can imagine then we go 6 months. Well, then now it's 19 years that we've not had sex. So to me, that's an indication, if we're going 3 or 4 months, that something needs to be tended to.
Well, in Noah's message, he talked about Sabbath as a rest and also Sabbath as a worship. And I know we all brought our notes from the message. I'm excited to dig into those, but also Sabbath as resistance, which at first glance or first hearing of that sounds kind of interesting. Like, oh, what are we resisting? We're going to dig in, but let's all just kind of share what were your top takeaways from this weekend? Like, what was your aha moment after hearing again about the Sabbath? And was there an area that you were convicted in? Like, oh, we need to change this.
Me and Lucas were actually just talking about this because today's my Sabbath. So yesterday I started preparing. So I was going around the house, cleaning things up. So I didn't have anything to really worry about today. And I've never really focused on preparing for the Sabbath.
Oh, that's good.
So that was a big takeaway from me from the message this last Saturday or Sunday.
So how did it feel today then, not having that stuff to do?
Big relief.
Yeah.
Right. That was what I took away the biggest too. Like there's different touch points. Obviously, it was a great message, but I never thought of it as like he said, observing. Like when you observe, say Christmas. I mean, you're planning months ahead. You're always you're like buying the little gifts. You put up the tree. You put up the lights.
Yeah.
You're doing it ahead of time, and that was always my struggle because sometimes mine lately have been on Sundays, and then she'd come home from work, and the next day it's dirty. And I was like, well, I'm sorry, it's my day. Yesterday I rested. But then the idea of observing, like preparing for it, I think was the coolest part. Like just doing things ahead of time so that your day of rest is a true day of rest. And then it's not regretfully the next day, like, oh man, I left some things behind. You know what I mean?
You guys have different Sabbath days then, right? I think you've talked about this before. And Lucas, you've shared, you try to be intentional about, trying to keep the house clean. So on your Sabbath, Amy, you're able to rest. So that's a totally different dynamic then. For having a different day as your spouse.
Yeah. And that's one of the reasons too I changed. I used to have Monday as my Sabbath. And I was like, oh, I can't come home to a dirty house after his Sabbath because he wasn't cleaning all day. But changing it to Wednesday just makes more sense for me because then I can prepare Tuesday night or Tuesday during the day because I'm home all day. So that's been a game changer.
Yeah. You're off all day Wednesday or do you work nights? Amy's a nurse, so
I usually work Friday, Saturday, Sunday.
Okay,
so
gotcha.
Off during the week.
Yeah, that's great.
Little transparency, actually. This week is the first week we switched it. And we had a conversation on Monday about me I took it, on myself. I basically said, hey, I'm not preparing well enough for the day because we had a conversation on Monday on what was left behind. The kids had the toys around, and which is a little bit harder. Like they're going to play on Sundays, but like the different chores I hadn't done. So we had a conversation about it. And that's when I was like, okay, it felt conviction. Like I need to change it and be prepared for the Sabbath. At that, in my notes here, like when the Israelites went in the wilderness and God was sending manna down, the sixth day, he would have them collect double the manna versus just so then on the Sabbath. So like, and that even shows along with observing holidays.
Ryan, what about you?
Yeah, I really love, so Noah set this up as Sabbath, as rest and worship. And that's something of running it through everything you do through those two filters. Is it rest? Is it worship? I absolutely love that because, I think that leads into the second part is Sabbath as resistance. See, like for me, like honestly, this is a struggle because you work, right? Like you work during the week and then I have like 2 days to get my own things done. Yeah. And I think part of what was happening for me is that like, it still does happen. So I'm not like figured this out yet, but this idea of work continues on. Like you get home and you have work. And so that would lead into Sabbath because, Sundays, like we attend church almost every single Sunday, but then I'm running through my filter of, okay, what do I need to do at home? What do I need to do to get ready for the week? What do I need to do? Chores, like all of these things. And it never really quit. Like you just continue work. It's just a different place.
Right.
Yeah.
Where I think for the longest time I was just like, okay, I'm not working. Like I left work at work, but then I would just continue working.
Right.
And so I think it is a true resistance to one, run through that filter. Is it rest? Is it worship? Is it set apart? And then, to let go of that resistance, because there is resistance, there is pull, there is busy that's pulling at you, and to slow that down.
Yeah. Yeah. I think for me, Ryan, something that Pastor Noah had said was, it's not a self-care day. And that was kind of a aha moment for me too, because and I'm excited to share what we each do for the Sabbath, but I think that was kind of what I had thought, okay, if I'm doing some care for myself or whatever, but that's not necessarily it. It's set apart. It's like Ryan just said, is it rest and is it worship? Are you putting your focus on God? So that was helpful for me.
I mean, I do believe the evil one so uses sex. And that should tell us how important sex is to God.
True.
Is for how crafty that the evil one comes after it. But we could have a lot of partners, and we're just using parts and positions and acts, but that won't build intimacy.
The real thing about this is understanding that it's not ours. That is something that drastically changed for us when we realize it's not about the church wanting my money. It's not about God wanting my money. It's about understanding that everything that I have, everything that comes in is not mine.
Every good and perfect gift is from the Father.
It's
right?
from above. It's from God. And so, I can tell you all of these things about, like, basically God saying, here's 9, I only want 10. I don't even, like, just on a bigger level, it's really just understanding that.
It's an act of surrender, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
And just
in obedience to that God. Yeah, Ryan. So I do think that example is really powerful. If you think, I remember one time in church, they had 10 M&Ms and they said, God said you can have 1, 2, 3. God gave you 9 M&Ms and is just asking for that one. Everything, your house, your car, everything is a gift from God. Yeah. It's all known anyways. You can't leave with it.
Right. I think that's such an important thing to just realize that every gift, everything you have, your ability, like all of these things, it comes from God and is truly, a blessing from God.
Yeah.
And I think it's understanding that for me, like this wasn't, it's really not even about money. We happily give because as you said, Michelle, it's obedience, it's to God's word, but it's also just, we understand that this is all a gift. It's all on loan. Michelle, you said this, one of the things like we love to do is thrift. Mm-hmm. And it's funny, we actually ran into a guy from Celebrate.
Oh my gosh, that was such a blessing.
And
Chris, you're awesome.
Yeah, he was such a blessing and talked about how much he loved the podcast. But, he also said something to us about, like, all the stuff in here. People like accumulated all of this stuff. Yeah, he had an injury, so he is working at this thrift store, just patiently waiting, for some healing. And he was in the context of, he sees everyone bring in all these donations. Right. Yeah. And he was like, they can't bring it with them. All this stuff. And he's like, I've just rethought about how I look at worldly possessions. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, so like and he's a listener of the podcast. Yeah. He was like, your guys' show is such an encouragement. Congrats on the 100. Yeah. So cool. It's so much of just understanding that. And it's not about the church wanting your money. Yeah. It's about understanding that it's not yours. Marriage can be fun. Yeah. Not because it's easy, but because it's intentional. Yeah. I think it's just reflecting on your marriage. If it feels like you're lacking fun, what can you do to be intentional with it? And know that it is possible to have fun with your spouse. They're not a drag. They're super fun. And I think that you can snowball this. When you start rolling this fun snowball, you might find that your spouse becomes more fun and then you become more fun, and
is a chain reaction and it just keeps increasing. Then you asked me on a date after that and we had dinner together. I actually, I thought you were handsome, but I wasn't initially like, oh my gosh, I'm going to date this man, because at that first dinner after the barbecue, I had asked you about your faith. And I just said, hey, I've done this my way and it's ended horribly. And I can't do this my way anymore. My next relationship has to have a foundation on Jesus. It has to be done God's way. And that's just that. So where are you plugged in for a local church? And you were like, well, I'm not really. And I was like, okay, well, okay. And that was kind of it for a little while. But you had called me a couple weeks later and said, hey, I want to let you know that Ella and I went to this church down the road from my house. I was like, Ryan, that's so great. And I was like, how was it? You said, well, it was kind of a disaster because Ella was rolling around in the pews and I couldn't concentrate, all this stuff, couldn't focus. And I said, well, the church that I'm going to, I'm pretty sure their kids ministry is pretty happening. It looks pretty happening on the weekends. You could come with me. And the first weekend you came with me, it's like the Lord had a word for you. It was so dead on with your situation, all of the anger that you were carrying and how you would harden off your heart to the Lord. And I feel like it was exactly what you needed to hear.
Yeah.
So I feel like my attraction to Ryan started after that moment. It started when God got a hold of him again and doing a work in him.
Don't get too focused on the, oh, yeah, she's cute. Yeah, he's handsome. That's kind of why. So what's on your list? Well, she's cute. No, that shouldn't really be the biggest thing on your list. And if you get
looks change too.
Yeah, and looks change
people are
and they're
age.
different. Yeah, so we joked as, my wife fell in love with me when I was 16. I'm a different person than I was when I was 16, right? Hopefully the core, the essence of me is still the same. I know that her heart is still the same. I see that. And so, that changes and that goes. But when you guys are talking you have to have that a little initial physical attraction, but that's actually really easy. The harder part is, can you slow down? Can you look at that person's heart and see that? And in your story, when you guys were talking, it's like, I got to see him when we were at church. That's when that guy really got attractive. When she was slowing down and just listening to me and being patient with me and understanding that I'm hurting and I got some stuff to work through, that's the thing that made your wife look really attractive. And I think people miss that a lot.
Sure.
And then the two of you coming together, as one, each with, laid back, very type A person coming together as just this beautiful picture.
Do you have an example?
I don't know. There's just a lot of things.
Off the top of your head.
The first one that comes, and we've shared this. I don't know. We've shared this about there's a lot of things that need to be done in our house before we go to bed.
Yeah. So I can sleep peacefully.
Yeah. So I just could go to sleep. It's bedtime. I can go to sleep. I'm not thinking about, the dishes need to be done. The laundry needs to be folded and put away. All of these things.
It's just a good best practice. Wrap it all up.
It never crosses my mind to be I need to put the house to sleep in perfect order before I can go to sleep.
Yeah.
That never crosses my mind ever.
The house to sleep. It's kind of catchy.
Yeah. Just everything needs to be tucked in tight and then I could go to sleep.
Which is a good example of you guys
laundry folded,
being different, right?
Yeah.
One way isn't any better than the other, but you thought, I like this about her, I like this about him. And when you talked about those kind of two becoming one, it's always cool that goes hey, it's two and they become one. But
because now you're on my team. You have become one.
The reality is two become one kind of like this.
They clash first.
Right.
And then they
kind of
merge.
rub and there's that friction. Well, you only can have friction if you're close together, but that's the piece where you're talking and figuring that out.
Yeah.
And then, but there's this piece of opposites attract, but you do have to have the big things are important.
Yeah.
Right? You have to have the same morals, the same values, the same big things. And so couples sometimes will get frustrated, like, man, all we ever do is we fight about the little things. And that gets them, that's so frustrating. We're fighting about this dumb little thing. Yeah, because you're good on the big things.
Sure.
And you should be good on the big things, right? And when we talked about, church, right? That was going to be a deal breaker for you. If he doesn't go to church and he's not in that spot, that's not one of those opposites attracts things. Like, no, we got to get these big ones first.
Yeah.
And you would have some, if you think back, it's like, I need to make sure Michelle's on the same page with me on this and doing that. And once like, okay, we got these big ones. Yeah, the other ones we're going to fight about. We're going to be friction. It's like it's putting the house to sleep or not, or all those kind of things. They can get probably annoying and frustrating with couples sometimes, but they're little things. And those are the opposites attract that we're just trying to get this all to fit nice.
But I think anytime you're trying to build a relationship, whether that's a friend, a spouse, whatever it is, like it requires time. Like you need to get to know them. And in order to get to know them, you need to be with them. You need to be around them. And I think that's one of those things that just those daily activities, it's so simple, but it's intentional.
Look in the mirror. Can you recognize you have a role in this?
Yeah.
Tony, I think that's so good. This idea of looking in the mirror and Michelle, to answer your question, like, I'm thinking of like, a guy comes in and is like, oh, you're just so emotional, blah, 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 and pointing that finger instead of like looking at it and kind of really owning this and saying, you know what, you're right. I have checked out. I've checked out because work is so stressful. Like all of these things are going on in my life. And like, when I come home, like I'm carrying the stress and I just need to go golf every night or something like that, of just being really honest with what is happening and just owning the fact that like, yeah, you're right. You're right. I have checked out. I have checked out from being, from doing things to helping with the kids because of like all of these things are going on and I'm having a hard time.
That's good, Ryan. Yeah, that makes sense.
And you answered it, but so what are they supposed to say? Like, so when she says, you're checked out, you're not helping out, you're right. Right? You said, you're right. And then we and here's all the reasons why, but go slow. Most of the time, what your spouse is saying is pretty accurate for both parties. It's like, hey, you were checked out. Correct. I am. I'm empty. I don't have a lot to give. I'm stressed at work. Yeah. But just going really slow and acknowledging what that other person said, looking in the mirror is like, you are correct. And in that case, when we talk about it the other way, hey, you're really emotional. You're correct. I am. I'm overwhelmed. You're correct. And so it's just slowing that process down instead of trying to point out, hey, you're wrong. This is what's going on. This is what's happening. Like, slow it down. You're right. Yeah. It's usually when you ask, what's the answer to do? That's it. Acknowledge the other person.
Look in the mirror to face ourselves and to start to focus on ourselves.
Yeah. First thing, slow down. Can you hear what your spouse is saying? Most of the time, can you validate? Yes, you're right. That's true. And the last big thing is listen to their words. A lot of times your spouse is going to say things like, I'm really mad, hurting, far away, and angry at you. And we really want to kind of like defend, well, da-da-da-da-da. Slow down. Isn't that how you're feeling? Right? Couples will argue and they will be tearful and sad and they will say this thing, and then I'll look at them and like, think about how you're feeling right now in your relationship. You're hurting, you're far away, and you're stuck. Guess what? Your spouse is feeling exactly the same way. They're using different words. They're saying it in a different way. So how do we look in the mirror? It's like, can you hear what your spouse is saying? And can you listen and hear that as, those are my words, right? So when your wife is saying, I'm frustrated, we're not connected, and you're not here for me, slow down and think a second. Is that how you're feeling? most of the time the answer is like, yeah, okay, then
we can work with that.
We can work with that, right? And I'm disconnected. Well, you don't ever want to have sex with me. And they argue back and forth like, whoa, listen to the words. And so like, how do you take that from off and look back in the mirror, like you said, and look at yourself, slow down, listen to what the person's saying, and then just ask yourself, is that how you feel? Do you feel the same way? Don't get defensive. Don't fight back. Can you hear the feelings that they're saying? Is that how you feel? If you do, that's workable. I tell couples all the time is you're going for awkward. You want awkward conversations. Awkward conversations don't end very nice. They don't flow very good, right? So if you have a really healthy, awkward conversation and you talk about, hey, this is what I want to, this is how I'm feeling. This is how I'm feeling. Okay. And you kind of have this discussion back and forth. And all of a sudden, if you're doing this right, you get to the end and you're like, are you good? Yeah, I'm good. Okay. And we're ready to move on, even though you don't quite feel well. That's the awkward part. If you have an unhealthy conversation, it's not awkward at all, right? You get mad and angry and somebody slams the door and walks out. It's pretty clean. It's done. It's over. Okay, we're done talking. It has this nice, clean finish to it. If you're doing it right, you're going to be awkward and you're like, I think we're good. Are you good? And you just keep checking in with each other and you keep going. So you're going for those awkward conversations. And so even in this example, we're like, hey, do you want to have sex? And if your spouse goes, maybe, okay, stay in that moment. Let's talk a little bit about that. Don't make that, well, too awkward, got to be done. That's actually what we're going for, is let's talk a little bit about that. You have no idea what your spouse is thinking or saying. So stay in that awkward, uncomfortable, and that will prevent a lot of these dumb ideas from actually happening.
We were just trying to, I think I had a mold for a wife and Nancy had a mold for a husband, and we spent a lot of time trying to fix each other in those molds. And so I think what God really showed us, and with the help of a counselor and some other people, is that God made us different for a reason. And it wasn't just the male, female, just because our body parts were different. No, it was much deeper than that. And that we had gifts and abilities. Nancy had gifts and abilities I didn't have. I had ones that she had. And I think we were missing that. We were missing what God wanted us to see, of how the two become one, and that we were stronger together than we were separate. And the more we were able to embrace that, the more I think we were able to accept our differences. Now, do some of my differences still bug her? I'm sure they do. And, but I think one of the things we've learned too, if we have an argument, we don't stay mad at each other very long. We have learned to recover quickly because we've learned the value of marriage and of each other in each other's lives. And so
it's really about one versus one. Are you striving for unity in your marriage? I've shared this before, Michelle, but it's such a powerful statement because, you see, if I win, but you lose, our marriage will actually lose. And it's the difference in that word, one versus one. O-N-E
versus W-O-N.
Right. The world tells us so much about what marriage is and what marriage should be. And we just want to have an open conversation about what godly marriage is. And that's the point of our show.
Yeah.
I mean, really.
We're pretty open with you guys.
We want,
very open.
We're open. We share anything and everything.
Yeah.
Because I think it's important to have this dialogue.
Yeah, it's real life. And I think it can help others by just saying you're not alone. And these are, common things that other people are going through.
Right. So really, Michelle, you were giving me the credit for this same team, which is very great. However, I think God actually said it first.
God gets the credit.
God gets the credit.
Let the record stand corrected.
And really, I think where this comes from is Genesis 2:24. This explains why a man leaves his father and mother and is joined to his wife, and the two are united into one. The two are united into one. That tells me same team. I like this concept of, like, if you had a team full of quarterbacks, they could be the best player on the team. But if every player was a quarterback on the team, I don't think they would win very many games.
Good point.
You know, they probably wouldn't even win a single game. I mean, I'm just thinking like the Chiefs, if it was Patrick Mahomes at every position, Patrick Mahomes can play quarterback, but he can't block anybody. He can't play defense.
True.
Yeah. I think so many times, Michelle, in our relationships, that's exactly what we want our spouse to be. We want our spouse to be exactly like us, to do things like us, to say things like us, to fold the laundry like us, to do the dishes like us.
Right.
And then we get mad when they don't. But we don't understand that it's those differences that actually make us a better team.
Yeah.
It's those differences where we can actually win. And when we can have a strong relationship, when we can really kind of look at that and be like, oh man, the two are coming together as one. We're better because we are different, and we can achieve more together.
Yeah, we actually had someone tell us that when we got married. They said, you're going to do so much more together than you ever could have imagined apart.
Right.
Which is kind of like that same thing.
Yeah.
Same team.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
When we look at this idea of same team, we understand that we have the same owner. We have the same management. We have the same coach who's calling the plays. And that's where the same team vision can drastically change your marriage.
I love that, Ryan. When you know that you have the same owner, the same coach calling the plays, it makes you realize you are on the same team.
Yeah.
I love that. So for you, our listener, let's do a little mental poll. So where does your relationship stand? We went over these 3 areas. So are you on the same team with communication, with intimacy, with vision? Let's throw in some more. What about parenting? What about hobbies? With your relationship with Jesus? With attending church? With who you hang out with where you spend your time and money? They say you can tell a ton about a person by looking at their bank account and their calendar. Are you on the same page as your spouse with where you spend your time and money? When you can first align with Him, Christ, like I just talked about, and then outward with your relationship with your spouse and others, you will find that your life does feel a lot more peaceful when you start to realize that you are on the same team. And as a result, God will grow that, and that will impact your ministry and who you're in turn able to reach from there. So that was a fun show.
Yeah, I love looking back at the year and all of just the great moments that we had.
Thank you to our listeners for being a part. We obviously would not have a show without listeners, so thank you. And we hope you have a great finish of your 2025. We have resources at Celebrate.church/marriage. And of course, if you don't have a church home, you can find us for services at Celebrate.church. We hope you have a very happy new year.
Happy New Year.